This is the second time that Democrats bet the House on white women and suburban white women. And this is the second time they've been left at the altar.
There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not.
I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Okay, guys, we are back on the Young Turks channel here. And as you can see, we are in the aftermath of the glorious results of the 2024 American presidential election, which saw Donald Trump take a landslide victory over the complete and utterly useless hack Kamala Harris. And yeah, the Young Turks are going to comment on what the mainstream media are saying about the election results. You can imagine, you don't have to imagine, we just saw a little taster there. Of course, it's all about racism and sexism. And it's, as we're going to see, of course, it's not racist when black women or black people vote for the black candidate, Kamala Harris, but it is racist when white women don't vote for the black woman candidate, Kamala Harris. By the way, I'm having a few drinks now. I'm taking a couple days, to enjoy the salt mining of these libtards. And then I'll get back to work. But for now, let's see what the Young Turks have to say.
Was it though? All right, well, as you just watched, Bakari Sellers, David Axelrod, who had clarity before the election, but seems to have lost that clarity after the election. Joy Reid, Sunny Hostin, they're all blaming Kamala Harris's loss on the character of the American electorate. And I think that's a big mistake. Because when you do that, number one, it's bad analysis and it's incredibly lazy. But number two, it only works to shield or provide cover for the mistakes that the Democratic Party has been making. Now, look, later on that episode of The View, Hostin and Alyssa Farah Griffin got into an argument over Hostin blaming white women specifically for voting against their own interests. So let's take a look at that.
This should be fun.
Why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? And why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to deport, says he's going to deport the majority of his community?
White women like being called uneducated white women. I think the economy matters, national security matters. But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway from this race.
Oh, wow, this woman, is that Alyssa Farah? Is that her name? Yeah, I've seen her say a few interesting things on The View. I mean, by interesting, I mean reasonable things. And yeah, she just said that's a takeaway from this race. Yeah, if you, i.e. the Democrats, just continually tell half of the country, over half of the country actually, that they are bigots or racists or sexist or transphobes or whatever, all these things, homophobes or misogynists, and you tell them all that over and over, and you just ignore their actual real life concerns as opposed to your highfalutin virtual virtue signaling concerns, yeah, they're going to tell you to fuck off, and that's what they did.
We have to look at the demographics.
Also, I think it's worth noting that there are some red states that attempted to ban abortion or severely restrict abortion, but the people in those states voted in favor of ballot initiatives to legalize abortion, to reverse the negative impact of the reversal of Roe v. Wade. So saying that people are voting against their best interests kind of doesn't make sense when it comes to the reproductive rights issue, because what was Kamala Harris supposed to do? She was going, like, let's say she got elected. She would have come into office with a Senate controlled by Republicans. And I don't know, has it already been determined? Have Democrats lost the House?
Yeah, almost certainly.
Okay, so basically a Republican controlled Congress. how the hell was she supposed to pass or codify reproductive rights on a national level? It wasn't gonna happen, and it wouldn't have happened if Democrats had control of the House or even a slim majority in the Senate. It just wasn't going to happen. She's not going to steamroll the Senate filibuster, which requires 60 votes in order to pass legislation. It wasn't gonna happen. So like, I think what Alyssa Farah Griffin said there, and I never thought I would say this, but she's right. She's right. And I also think there's an issue with the way like liberals feel free to just demonize white people in general, right? Like it turns people off. And if they're
Ooh, wow. Listen to this 4chan rhetoric from Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. Yeah. Perhaps white people are getting fed up with being demonized. You know, the same white people who built the United States. White men, specifically, actually Anna Kasparian, just to be more specific. Perhaps they're slowly getting fed up with all this bullshit. Now, excuse me while I have another sip of my liberal tears here. Actually, a bit of vodka. It's the weekend.
Constantly told over and over again that they're the enemy. They're everything that's wrong with this country. You know, every bad thing that's happened here is because of, you know, the white European settlers and the white people who are here. Like, if one party is telling them they're the bad guys and they're not wanted and they're the root of every problem in the country, do you think that part of the electorate's gonna vote for you?
Yeah, there's so many different problems in all those statements. So number one, you're misunderstanding why she lost. If you're thinking that she lost, not to say there's no racism or sexism against her, that's absurd. Of course there's some, right? But if you think that's the main reason that she lost, you've misdiagnosed the problem. The main reason she lost is because Democrats don't deliver and they run establishment campaigns and not populist campaigns. And this is so stark because there's only 2 people in the country among the politicians that have run as populists. One is a fake populist, Donald Trump. One's a real populist, that's Bernie Sanders, right? And both of them had miraculous runs. And the media acknowledges, oh my God, but we thought Bernie was a joke. We thought he was gonna get 1% against Hillary Clinton. He got 48%, nearly won the whole damn thing. And in 2020, he won the first 3 primary states. Oh my God, that's amazing, right? Donald Trump in this miraculous political comeback wins the second time. Those are the only 2 people that have ever run as populists in my lifetime for president. And they both did spectacularly well. Every establishment, Republican and Democrat that runs gets clowned, right? But they can't figure, they're like, oh, no, that's not it. And remember, Bernie's on the left, Trump's on the right. So it's not even a left-right thing. It's definitely not a racial thing. Bernie's terrific on race, Trump's terrible on race. But they both won. Oh, I'm sorry, Bernie did.
Trump's terrible on race? You might want to look at who exactly voted for him, Cenk.
Win ultimately, but he had a miraculous rise up in the polls. And so if you're looking at it in an unbiased way, clearly the American people are saying we don't like the elitism. And then here's a bunch of elites on television who are almost all millionaires telling you it's your fault and it's uneducated white women's fault. Okay, that leads to problem number 2, which is what Anna was talking about. If you keep insulting, by the way, not only some people, which they won't go free, but also the majority of people in this country. Do you think that's a good political strategy to say to 3/4 of the country that's white, you guys are the problem?
Yeah, I don't think it's 3/4 of the country these days, unfortunately. It's more like 60%, if that. But yeah, Cenk's completely correct. Of course, it's a ridiculous strategy by the Democrats if you want to win an election. And I hope they keep focusing on that strategy. It'll be beautiful. I hope they do it for the next, in the midterms and in 2028. I hope they keep pounding that strategy. And maybe they'll even bring Kamala back. That'd be fantastic.
It's your fault we lost. And it's your fault for being so uneducated and so white. I mean, that is the worst political strategy I've ever seen. I mean, that makes some of the extreme leftists that we were right about and had terrible political strategy, et cetera, it makes them look like good strategists when you do that strategy.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, I mean, it's as bad as it could possibly be. And then there's the fact that a lot of the things they say isn't remotely true. Like in the beginning, Sunny Hostin was talking about, black woman with a Jewish husband. I had this, like, wait, are you saying that like Jewish people can't do well in this country in politics? Because there's that stereotype also exists. What are you talking about? Bernie Sanders, again, legendary in how.
That stereotype does not exist. Jewish people do very well in American politics. Just look at the Congress and see who's Jewish.
Well, he did. Jamie Raskin, one of the most popular figures in politics, and Josh Shapiro, an incredibly successful and popular governor in Pennsylvania. What are you guys talking about? It doesn't have anything to do with them being Jewish or black or anything like that. It has to do with the substance of their campaigns. But people on TV hate substance.
Yeah, it's lazy politics. It's boring, lazy, dumb politics. Okay, so could it be any black woman? Can it be Candace Owens? If Candace Owens is running for president, do we have to support her because we need to elect a black woman? Like, what does she stand for? What does she represent? Is she gonna serve the best interests for the electorate? Like, what are we talking about here? And look, I think the biggest problem is that when it comes to the field of journalism, it used to be dominated by working class people, okay? A lot of them didn't even get a college degree, right? You didn't need a college degree to be a journalist. But now journalism is dominated by wealthy, Ivy League educated individuals who live nice, cushy, comfortable lives and are kind of detached from the realities that the electorate has to deal with.
Wow, do you think? Listen to the Young Turks, based and red-pilled all over the place. Yes, of course that's a problem. And Anna pointed out rightly that journalism used to be more of a blue-collar type of profession. Guys working hard, trying to, get a scoop and all that. Now, of course, they're just, they're college graduates. They've been indoctrinated, brainwashed with all the nonsense that's been going on for the last couple decades. And they're hopeless. And that's why, probably, that citizen journalists, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, Andrew Tate's, Joe Rogan's, podcasters, all those kind of guys are having an increasing influence in the results of elections. Probably, the fact that Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan's podcast, who knows if that pushed him over the edge, but God, it certainly must have helped. He did like a 3-hour podcast, just freeformed it. Just sat there and chatted. Did Kamala Harris do that? Of course not. She's just an establishment hack. She's an elite. She's a career politician. Of course she wouldn't do something like that. She can't do it. It's literally impossible for her to do that. There's nothing there. So anyway, it's nice to see. It's always nice to check in on the Young Turks, see what's going on. In the meantime, if you guys have any comments, please write them in the comments section. I will endeavor to reply to interesting ones, as always. And in the meantime, like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel and continue making content for you.